On a usual Sydney morning in January 1979, locals walking near Piermont Wharf encountered an unusual sight: a shivering young woman in a red bikini, desperately trying to communicate in broken English. Few could have guessed they were witnessing the aftermath of one of the Cold War's most dramatic escapes, a story that would soon capture headlines worldwide and remain classified in KGB files for over 4 decades. Welcome back to Mystery Vault, where the secrets of the past come to life. In today's video, we dive into one of the Cold War's most unexpected escape stories. This woman was Liliana Gasinskaya, a Soviet defector who had escaped from the Leonid Sobanov, a Soviet merchant ship docked in Sydney Harbor. Her escape would later be shrouded in mystery, with conflicting accounts emerging about the events of that night. Liliana, born in 1958 in the Soviet Union, had joined the Soviet Merchant Navy, a path that eventually brought her to Australia. For months before her escape, she carefully studied the ship's routines, learning when crew members would be distracted and when it would be safe to make her move. She spent countless nights visualizing her escape, preparing for the moment she would risk it all. "The hardest part was keeping my fear in check," she later recalled in an interview with the Sydney Morning Herald. "I knew there would be no second chance. If they caught me, I'd be sent back to the USSR, and I couldn't let that happen." On the night of January 7, 1979, Liliana executed her plan. After squeezing through a small porthole, she dropped silently into the water, the cold striking her body immediately. "Every stroke felt endless," she told reporters later. "The water was dark, and I kept imagining someone shouting from the deck or a searchlight finding me. But I kept telling myself, just a little further, and I'll be free." As she approached the shoreline, she started to feel the exhaustion setting in. "I could see the lights of the city, and I knew land was close," she said. "But my arms felt heavy, and I wondered if I could even stand when I reached it. I thought of home, of never being able to speak freely, and that gave me the strength to keep going." At around dawn, Liliana emerged from the water near Piermont Wharf. She spotted a man walking his dog and knew this was her moment to ask for help. The man was Bill Green, a local photographer, and his memories of that morning paint a vivid picture. "She was shaking, pale, and looked terrified," Green later said in an interview. "At first, I thought she might have fallen into the water, but then she started speaking in broken English, saying, 'Russian, defector, help.' She looked like she had been through hell." Green took her to his nearby home, where he offered her a blanket and some tea. "She kept saying, 'No USSR, please,'" Green recalled. "I could see the desperation in her eyes. She told me she swam from the ship and just needed to be safe." That night, Green listened as Liliana shared fragments of her story, revealing how she had spent months planning her escape and dreaming of freedom. She said, "Every time I looked at the shore, I told myself, one day I will be there." It was heartbreaking and inspiring at the same time, Green recounted. The next morning, the media descended on Green's home after hearing about the extraordinary story. A photograph of Liliana, in her now famous red bikini, ran in the Courier Mail, instantly making her an icon. In her first press conference, Liliana addressed the reporters, her voice trembling but determined. "I had been planning this for months," she said. "I knew I had to escape, even if it meant risking my life. I swam in the dark thinking only of freedom. I'd rather die than return to the USSR." But there's another version of the story, one that casts doubt on Liliana's account. According to crew members from the Leonid Sobanov, her escape was not as perilous as she claimed. First Mate Seleznev and other crew members suggested that Liliana's defection was planned in advance and aided by individuals on land. They claimed that the ship had been docked near the pier that night, not anchored in the harbor. Liliana had reportedly been seen communicating with a mysterious figure on the dock in the days leading up to the escape. According to this account, she exited through the porthole and was swiftly picked up by a waiting car before being driven to the location where she was found the next morning. When asked about these allegations by the Daily Telegraph, Liliana firmly denied them. "No one helped me. I planned this myself. It was my dream, and I took the risk alone." The KGB took swift action, launching an investigation into the escape. Crew members were interrogated, and it was revealed that Liliana had been preparing for her escape for months, studying English maritime terms and maps of Sydney. Some reports even indicated that she had destroyed secret notes she had written, further fueling suspicions about her meticulous planning. Back in the Soviet Union, Liliana's escape had serious consequences. The KGB launched a full investigation, and several crew members were reassigned to less glamorous duties. Their careers of international travel came to a sudden end. In the years that followed, Liliana remained a figure of intrigue. Despite the early media frenzy, she largely withdrew from the public eye. She married twice and eventually moved to England, where she chose a life of privacy, refusing interviews and never clarifying the true nature of her escape. Liliana's defection remains a subject of debate, with questions about whether her escape was a genuine act of desperation or a carefully staged media event. What is clear is that her story, regardless of the truth behind it, remains one of the most dramatic and mysterious defections of the Cold War. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible tales of courage and history. And let us know in the comments what other remarkable figures from history should we dive into next. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.